That's what it's all about, man. They said money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money and defeat you. Yeah. Money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money and defeat you.
Hey everybody, we're back here at the Google campus during the Crowdsortium event. It's been a great event so far with people discussing crowdsourcing, people getting paid inside of systems like Mechanical Turk and Crowdflower. A lot of questions, not too many answers to be honest. It's a very emerging space. Today with me, Ben Smith of Merchant Circle. Ben, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
So tell our audience who may or may not be aware of Merchant Circle, what is Merchant Circle, what is the mission?
Sure. We're a community of small local merchants, most of which is in the U.S., 95% are in the U.S., sort of mom and pop people who are plumbers or landscapers or whatever. We provide them a community platform where they connect with local consumers and provide them a set of tools to do that with. And in the end, the core of the system is a social network that allows them to sort of help each other or peer pressure each other into creating more and more content that sucks in local consumers.
So I don't understand what you just said exactly. Sure. There's a lot of buzzwords in there.
Sure.
It's a platform for small businesses. So they pay you for software to run their business? Like, is it like a Squarespace type thing? Or do they run it on your site? How does it manifest itself?
It manifests itself in a free social platform on the web. So,
got it. So like Ning? Would you say? Like
I would say it's more close to a LinkedIn or a Facebook than a Ning, in that it's one central network.
Got it.
And they come on, they connect with other merchants, they create content, which then helps them find local
Why would they
consumers.
connect with another merchant? Like if I own Joe's Plumbing and you're Sam's Plumbing, I'm going to connect with you. Why?
If you're connecting with Sam's Plumbing, you're probably connecting to learn from Sam, to see what he's doing to attract customers, and to learn from what he does. But more likely you're not connecting with, if you're Joe's Plumbing, you're not connecting with a competitive plumber, you're connecting with a landscaper, you're connecting with a contractor.
So I look for my friends in the system? Is that the sort
your
of
friends and your fellow community members who work in the same community you do.
Got it.
The landscaper who tends to do landscaping when you put the plumbing in the house.
So as a consumer, do I go to Merchant Circle, or is this all happening behind closed doors like on LinkedIn?
Everything that's done is publicly discoverable through search and other methods, because in the end, all that activity is generating content. It's taking content out of the plumber's head and putting it on the web.
So what is the content? Is it Q&A? Is it how-to articles?
How-to articles, Q&A, coupons, just business subscription information, etc. But it's the information that sits inside a small business owner's head today about, why don't my pipes work, or why is the fuel pump in my Z71 pickup not working? All that sort of content that sits in local merchants' heads today. We're just trying to pull it out and put it on the web.
So you do that by asking them questions, or their customers ask them questions?
Customers and each other asking them questions.
Got it. And then
they compete to a certain extent to get better and better answers, and they're sort of peer reviewed amongst each other in terms of the quantity and quality of the answers.
If somebody were to type in, how do I fix this pump on my Z whatever car, you guys might come up in search engine results, and then it's got all the different merchants answering it, and you click on it. So in some ways, it's like a Quora for local merchants, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, Quora didn't exist when we started, and so the concept didn't exist.
Right.
But in general, the most basic idea is, when you think about the local problem of sort of local merchants and local consumers, an enormous amount of information sits inside local merchants' heads.
Right.
And we get access to that today by we pick them up, we call the phone, or we call them on the phone, or we bump into them in the store and we ask them a question. We're just trying to suck that out of their head and put it on the web because it's in the consumer's interest, and it's obviously in their interest.
On their website or on your website mostly?
It's on our website, but they can put little widgets on their website to display it.
Right.
They can put the badges and all that kind of stuff on their website.
Got it.
So if you're a top plumbing answerer, you can put a badge on your page. And
so essentially, you were Quora before Quora. You're like Stack Overflow before Stack Overflow. You're a verticalized version of Yahoo Answers, but for local merchants. Would that be a fair?
Yeah, I mean, I think that
poor man's description of it. I don't mean to marginalize it. If you feel I'm marginalizing, I apologize.
Our mission was to bring every small local merchant in the country onto the web. That's what we started out as.
Yeah.
All of these things that have come up over time have just been methods to make that happen.
Right.
I mean, we have the largest social network of small local merchants in the U.S., more than Google Places does, when they're not a network. But we have that because of a series of things we've done to get there. Not because we wanted to build a social network, but because we wanted to get every small merchant online. And we felt that would change the local search experience if every time you typed a search in, the guy who knows everything about when you should clean your gutters in Lemoyne, Pennsylvania. There's a guy who knows that, but he's not usually on the web because he's cleaning gutters. So we needed to pull him onto the web and get that information out of his head. And whether it's using the Q&A platform ideas or using the gaming platform ideas, using crowdsourcing to generate content that they could respond to, using the social network methods, etc. All of it was to accomplish one mission, which was to get every one of them onto the web.
And now, how long have you guys been at it?
We launched in 2006, the summer of 2006.
2006. Okay, so just before Mahalo did. And so now local's become the bee's knees. Everybody wants to be in local. Google has taken a massive step towards essentially taking over the local space with their Places product. I notice when I do a search now, instead of getting 10 blue links, I get an entire product at the top, and then maybe 4 blue links to partner sites. How is Google's entry into this marketplace affected you guys?
I don't want to give you the flippant answer that, the big guy entered and it validates my market.
Well, that's the fine VC answer, but I'll call BS on that because I'm an entrepreneur.
I think that's crap.
Right.
In the end, local's always been important in the advertising space.
Yeah.
It's always been a big market, and it's always been a search market. The majority of dollars, high margin dollars in local advertising has always been search. It used to be called the Yellow Pages, but it was search.
Right.
So we always knew from the beginning that Google would be a player in the space.
Sure.
And our view was very simply, we're going to build the largest network of merchants. If we build the largest network of merchants, we're going to have the most content locally. And if we end up with the most content locally, any company positions itself as providing access to the best content, Google, will respect us.
Do they? Does Google respect you?
Most of the time.
Yeah.
Now we've had our ups and downs as everybody has. I think that the most recent discussion of things like Panda, it's not the biggest time we've ever been hit. It is probably the worst day I've had in the company, but it's not the biggest.
Certainly the worst day I had as the CEO of Mahalo. I'll agree with you there. I mean, we were crushed overnight. Massive, more than 50% decrease.
I would say this, that I get a lot of pressure from my board historically as to why I ran the company so cash flow positive. On February 25th, they didn't ask me that question anymore.
Yeah, you got whipsawed just like we did.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Panda? Was it poorly executed by Google? Did they do too much change at once? Did they not consider the impact this would have on the good people of the web, Mahalo, Merchant Circle, people producing high quality content? Because it feels like some babies got thrown out with the bathwater, at least in my opinion.
Organizing the world's information, as they say their mission is a fairly complex task.
Yeah.
So I'm never going to take a shot at Google for making decisions that they think, that they believe, and I'm trusting
You believe
them.
they have good intentions?
I believe that the individuals at Google generally have good intentions.
Generally.
Yes.
Okay, and so in the search space, we agree they were trying to make search better, but did they?
I do not believe that they made search better across the board.
Right.
I believe that they're
so
in any sort of change like that.
Panda, in the first 3 months, you agree with me and other people, it wasn't actually executed so well, but Google does take 6-9 months to get this right historically.
Yeah, it's a long game for them, and they think about changing the world over a long period of time, and I think it'll work out fine. It'll work out fine for those people who build massive amounts of great content, and whose users engage with that content. I'm very fortunate to be running a cash flow positive company that still is in such case, so we can continue to innovate and move forward. And the fact is, we add just as many merchants today as we did before, and they add just as much content, and they continue
just don't get as much traffic to that content.
Just don't as much.
So a short-term hit
from that particular source, we don't get as much content.
Yeah. Does that make you want to diversify more? Do you feel like maybe you relied on it too much?
In the end, local is search and search is Google.
So actually, there's no way around it.
No, I mean, if you want to be successful, as serving and helping to bring content out of a local plumber's head, you've got to perform well in search.
Yelp has complained very, very publicly about Google, which is a major concern of most CEOs to not critique the Google.
Yeah.
And generally there's fear about doing that.
Absolutely.
And you have Yelp, Jeremy, and the guys over there saying, we feel Google is acting in a way that is anti-competitive by pushing our results down, by not respecting our content, many issues they've had. What are your thoughts on the subject? Is Google now putting this huge local box at the top and pushing all you guys down in the organic search results? Is that overreaching? Should they be allowed to do it? Should the government get involved? I mean, these are the discussions that are occurring right now on this campus.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that happens is you become a very large company, and having been an executive in a $20 billion a year plus company.
Which one was that?
EDS.
EDS, sure.
And as you get larger and larger, the fact that every individual is focused on winning and doing what they think is the right thing, when you aggregate that up, generally it's goodness, but sometimes it's not. Because in a focus on winning, they don't realize that sometimes they're using certain leverage they have in the corporation in an unfair way. Right. I hope that Google never ends up in that direction. I hope that they'll continue to look out for the little guy.
Right.
And
they have, haven't they? Google's been a good actor, generally.
Generally, they're a good actor. I think that because generally they have fundamentally good intentions.
Right.
It is where those intentions sort of bump up against the little guy. But the little guy, I'm not talking about startups. So it's all fair. We're all adults here. We're all sophisticated.
Sure.
We raise real money from real investors.
We're in a free market.
And we're taking a risk. I'm talking about the plumber in Texas.
Ah, really? Explain.
And being unfair to the little guy who's just trying to get, hey, I'm just trying to sell plumbing.
Right.
I just want to put food on my table, and I want to sell plumbing.
Not an affiliate scam, not trying to get the number one rank for Kindle.
And I want to put my stuff out there and have it be found in a fair way so that I can get people to tell me how to ask me to fix their pipes. And I think that also is a very different political situation in terms of what matters, right? Because nobody in the political world cares about me. I'm in the Silicon Valley. I'm building a company as an entrepreneur.
Big venture capital backing.
I'm just, okay, wait. I tell you what, the plumber votes, and you don't want to mess with the plumber in Texas.
So how are they getting squeezed in this sort of changing landscape?
Well, if you think about it, there is a dominant way that they're seen on the web, and they lack control of that today. As Google becomes more and more controlling of that puts them in a bad spot.
So Google gets to control how their listing is shown. They don't. Yes. It used to be I type in Joe's Plumbing, first link, Joe's Plumbing.
Yes.
Now the first link
or at the very least,
down the page.
Yeah, down the page. And that first link, by the way, is a page that Joe's Plumbing doesn't control. It's a difficult spot.
So now Joe's Plumbing is controlled by Google. They can't even change their own page and how they're perceived by the world.
Yeah, that's a difficult spot to be in. And I recognize...
What's Google's response to that? I mean,
because Google's response is very simple. I'm trying to provide the best thing for the consumer. I want to give you an aggregated page that represents everything we think you want to know, or our system thinks you want to know about Joe's Plumbing. And this is a better answer. I'm not clear that Microsoft bundling Internet Explorer was a bad answer either, but it was
well,
unfair.
The government seemed to think it was a bad answer, and forcing people to take Internet Explorer and put it on their desktop, which Microsoft was convicted of, I believe, was where they overstepped their bounds. And now you have Google. It's not like consumers have a choice. They have to get the Google Joe's Plumbing page first. They're not allowed to say, I don't want Google listings first, I want the actual Joe's Plumbers listing first. Nor would they actually change that.
I think over time Google will figure this out. I mean, and we'll also figure out that there's this other constituency of small local merchants who have all this information in their head, and they really want to do the nice thing for them because in the end that helps the consumer.
So maybe they'll get their contact info and let them change it themselves?
I think it'll balance this stuff out over time. Now this is a very complicated issue. I mean,
because I like getting the Google result better because it's usually the cleaner data.
Right, and I don't want the
Joe's Plumbing page that's made on GeoCities.
And you also don't want Joe's Plumbing to bury everything negative about him on the page and only say the positive stuff. So it's a balance, but in the end, just like in any ecosystem, there is a constituency of small local merchants who matter. And any system is going to have to respect that. Whether you're Groupon, you've got to respect the small local merchant and the consumer. Yeah. If you're Google, you've got to respect both sides.
And by default, your business is pro-local merchant.
Absolutely. That's what we exist for.
Whereas Google is pro-clean search results.
Yes.
And then secondary, we'll talk to the merchants.
Yeah, and we have to balance those things. Just like we have to balance the consumer side of the equation versus the merchant, they've got to balance the consumer versus the merchant.
If a merchant gets savaged inside of your system with bad reviews and people have a problem with them, Do they have the ability to take those results down? Is it so pro-merchant that the merchant controls the discussion about them?
I would say it's a little bit like your Facebook page. I assume when people slam you on your Facebook page, you get to delete it.
I do.
In some cases, you leave it up.
I leave it up because I like the link baiting aspect. My philosophy is to engage the trolls.
Sometimes it's good.
Mike Arrington is writing on my Facebook page all the time, and I love to engage Mike in the discussion.
It gets you more traffic.
Yes.
Well, on
Gets
the
me
other
more
hand,
traffic, precisely.
What the consumer says on his own page, in our case, the consumer has a page where the consumer can say whatever he wants. What he says on that page about the merchant, it stays on this page. But what stays on the merchant's page is up to the merchant.
Got it. So you are empowering the merchant, therefore they get 5 bad reviews. They can take them off their page.
They can respond to them, take them off, but they're still going to stay on the consumer's page.
The consumer gets to keep it there. I heard a crazy story about Yelp, and I want your reaction to it. Interview a PR guy, comes into my office, PR social guy, says he was interning at a local consulting firm, in Los Angeles, in fact, and they had 20 interns writing Yelp reviews. They then would write negative reviews about a local business, go into the business and say, we have a lot of great, insider, Yelp elite, what they call it, Yelp elite or Yelp insider, what's their expert level?
It's elite.
I think it's Yelp elite. We have a bunch of Yelp elite accounts, we can get this bad review taken off. And they're basically gaming those local merchants. What do you think?
That's illegal.
It would be, wouldn't it?
That's on its face illegal. I mean, it's actually
the law
it's actually under California law, it's unfair trade practices.
Yeah.
Under criminal law, it's extortion. I mean, it's
illegal. It is illegal. Yeah. So, but my point of it is, obviously, Yelp has nothing to do with this. Open system writing reviews leads to.
I would actually say that Yelp is probably at the bleeding edge of stopping that shit. I mean,
they're as good as it gets.
They're as good as it gets. I think they're better than
Google. I agree. Obviously,
I think
they're
better than
actors.
Google at looking at bad user-generated content, because Google doesn't worry about user-generated content, right?
Yeah, no, that's just like an algorithm for that.
Right, but Yelp is, in the end, a user-generated content system.
That's their whole kit and caboodle.
And they have gotten better and better and better at both algorithmically and systematically understanding fraud and stopping their system. Not all merchants like that, because there are some merchants who want to game it the other way.
They want to write good reviews.
They want to have people write good reviews about them.
Well, so the game can be rigged. The game can be gamed. Obviously, it's a game. These reviews. What does that mean for the average consumer? Should we trust what we read on Merchant Circle, on Yelp, on Google listings, or what percentage of these things are fraud? What percentage of them are put up by the actual merchant? How trustworthy are they?
I think in Yelp's case, I think that they do an incredibly good job of making that stuff right to the point where they probably delete some good stuff. Where they probably some of the over positive stuff that they think is questionable and algorithmically they're thinking is questionable, they're flagging and taking down. So I think that you can trust.
Hyper-vigilant.
Yeah, hyper-vigilant.
So you find Yelp to be. You read the reviews, you're going to get a pretty good idea of the place.
So. I think so.
That is my experience,
you're going to get an inherent bias in it, as you will in any sort of feedback process, because the people who are most likely to comment on Yelp are a certain group of people.
They're the people who are either thrilled or disgusted. Just like people who
and they're people who are very web savvy. They're people who are very opinionated. It's not like the same effect, which eventually I think that everyone wants to accomplish, which is, what would your neighbor say, right? You think about that's what we all want to know, is what would my neighbor say? Because I know who he is, what would he say? Well, that really hasn't taken effect yet. It is the extremes that come out.
Right.
As you see, we'll see.
Which is why you'll see fives and ones for the same restaurant.
Someone had a bad day.
Somebody had a bad day, or somebody had a great experience. Yeah. So you get a lot of averages of 3.
Or someone went to the wrong restaurant. They went expecting one thing when they were getting something. When the brand promise was something different.
So I will tell my friends about my favorite film. I'll tell my friends about the film I hated most. But the film that I just plain old enjoyed, that was a 3 stars out of 5, I'm not going to crow about. I won't take the time to write a review. It's just a bias
it's also not
in
very
reviewing.
Sexy. Writing reviews about plumbing is not very sexy. So a lot of that stuff doesn't happen on some of those kinds of sites, where it's more likely to happen on Service Magic and Angie's List and Merchant Circle.
Speaking of Angie's List, what do you think of that? My wife isn't crazy about that Angie's List. She loves that.
It's an incredible economic model.
Not
as good as Groupon. She pays and they pay. Both sides pay. It's a great model.
Both sides pay. Yeah. They're a competitor of yours, no doubt.
Partner.
Oh, so you like their reviews, and you will syndicate them to your site?
They protect their reviews. They don't let the reviews off their site.
Oh.
Because you have to pay to see them.
Right.
but we do some stuff with those guys. We do stuff with Surface Magic, etc. In the end, I want every merchant on my platform. So anybody that's got merchants, I'm very happy to
Surface
talk to.
Magic, I hear bad things about. People don't like them. Why?
I don't have any. I'm a Surface Magic user, so I
Oh,
don't have
really?
the same experience.
This is the one where you send in your request for somebody, they bring you back 3 people or something. They sell your list. They sell your lead gen.
They get people to answer. They get people to answer the phone. I mean, if you think about,
So it's
you're trying
lead
to-
gen.
well, from the consumer's perspective, it's the opposite. It's
Right.
I want someone to fix my fence, and I don't want to spend all day calling 25 people. I want to tell them I want to fix my fence. This is my problem. Here's a picture of the spot where I want the fence fixed, and I want 5 people to call me, and I want to bid it out. So from the consumer's perspective, it's an RFP.
Right.
From the merchant's perspective, it's
They
lead
pay
gen.
for those leads.
They pay for those leads.
A
Yes.
couple of bucks.
Yeah.
But
Depending
you
on
don't
the-
pay
depending
for
on the
that.
Depending on the category. I mean, maybe a lot more than a couple bucks.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, what is it? What are the fees like for, say, I come and I'm going to fix your HVAC unit, or?
Well, let's say, I mean, one that I just know off the top of my head is you want to put an electric dog fence in your backyard.
Electric dog fence in my
$2,000.
backyard.
It's a $2,000 project.
I want to torture my dogs with a $2,000 fence. Okay.
Well, you want to save
How
your
much
dog
is
from running into the street.
Right. Torture them. Got it.
And
I'm an animal rights
that's
activist.
probably a $125 lead.
What? Because there's $40.
It's
Because
a
that's a
$2,000 project.
and it's a 50% margin project, so I'm more than happy to give 5% to those
Yeah,
folks.
to get someone. And,
$125.
yeah.
Jesus, I could create a business of just putting flyers out for dog fences, collect the names, and then sell the leads.
Assuming they were qualified leads, sure.
Hey, well, that's what they're doing, isn't it? Well, listen, continued success with it. I've heard great things about the company. I heard it's a great company to work for. You guys are based here.
Yep.
You have
Just the other end of Mountain View.
how many people now?
40.
40 people. Wow, and you guys are crushing it, from what I understand.
It's going well.
I think we know some mutual investors. We might have some in
Well,
common.
Mr. Tolles, we both know very
Chris
well.
Tolles, we
Yeah,
know.
So Chris was the co-founder of my last company. We're good friends. So.
Right. What was that? That was
Spoke.
Spoke. Yes.
Which is a very
I forgot
interesting
that
thing.
Spoke was your company.
Yeah, Spoke is my
Sitting here on the day
LinkedIn goes public for $10
Let's
billion.
talk about that for a second. Holy cow. Spoke was a business-to-business networking site. It was said in the same sentence as LinkedIn. Why did it fail?
I've been asked this question a couple of times today. I think
And it did fail terribly, right?
Well, I'm still on
I'm
the board.
joking.
No. What I would say is I'm still on the board 10
Right.
years later. Anytime you're on the board of a company 10 years later, it's either a massive success or not quite
Sideways.
so much.
Yeah.
So it still exists. It's still doing very well in terms of at least paying its own bills. I'd say it hit the wall for 3 reasons. One is a different point of view amongst some of the investors as to whether we should continue the enterprise direction, which was bringing in revenue, or go completely web. A more frictionful process of signing up versus sort of going for the viral effect. And the third is that I think the team all split. We all went different directions. We all ended up, in fact, if you look at the team today, of my top 10 guys, 8 of them are CEOs.
Wow. So you couldn't make it happen there, but now you're going to have 8 other flowers bloom.
I hope so.
That corpse
Yeah.
dies and decays, and the flowers come out of it. You have 8 great companies. I thank you for being so honest about it. And I'm sorry, it must be like a bittersweet day.
I think it's incredible for Reed. I mean, Reed and I sat down for lunch the day after I left Spoke, and he gave me some great advice. Most importantly, that you keep building these features before the network's done. I'm going to build those features eventually, but I'm going to win on the network thing. And that's what
I love
he did.
it.
He won. He's a great guy.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks for the time.
Appreciate it.